Laurence Fox doesn't seem to me mainstream. I'm sure there are some people for whom he is, but um, I think again, when the zeitgeist changes, it's not actually that people always act differently all the time. It's just the reactions to them change. And, I'm sure I could find online some people supporting Laurence Fox. And indeed, there was somebody on what I still call Twitter the other day who wanted to criticize me quoting A.A. Gill, and um, it, that we're never, we're never going to be in a kind of nirvana in which everything is as we'd like it to be. But I think it wouldn't have caused such controversy 25 years ago. Um, you know,
No, I'm encouraged to hear that you think things have got better, and that's good. And it's good to kind of hold on to progress and mark it. I mean, obviously, Laurence Fox would say he's fighting for his freedoms. There's been a kind of
no,
controversy over should GB News be shut down? Is there an
just
important freedom of speech issue here?
I know, just
but
you know,
but I mean, GB
I mean,
News, you would defend its right to exist.
I'm 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 keen on people not being censored, right? Um, I don't think it's a freedom of speech issue in any crude way. And freedom of speech is not about a freedom to rant, And um, so the idea of making it a principled decision, um, seems to me, just not quite to the point. Um, I suppose that I've worked on periods and lived through periods when I think shutting views down because you fundamentally disagree with them is not the right way of
Mm.
changing people's
And do
minds.
you think, are you concerned about censorship in inverted commas on university campus? Do you have any truck with trigger warnings, for example? Or do you think there's a kind of confected row that's all part of a culture war here?
I think it's not entirely, but quite largely confected. I mean, you can read through some newspapers and you would get the impression that people in every university were kind of running scared and they wouldn't even teach Jane Austen in case it upsets somebody. Now, usually when you get to the bottom of those kind of articles, you discover that it rests on one student's view, which was firmly rejected by the university concerned.
But do
Now,
you do
I,
trigger warnings? Do
I,
you think that's
I
acceptable or not?
what look, I think when you call them trigger warnings, people bridle, don't they? If I'm teaching, and I've happily retired now, so I can say this in the past. If I was teaching the early Roman kingship, the myths of the foundation of Rome, um, I would say I wouldn't write it on a piece of paper saying you may be upset by this. I would say at the beginning of the series, look, the early history of Rome is written by Romans as a story of rape and sexual violence. Now, I think that's a polite thing to do. It's not a very good teaching experience to not warn a group of young students whose experiences you don't know that this is going to be about rape and violence. Now,
So it's
and I would have
context
done that.
rather than a trigger
It's
warning.
I would have done that forever. That if we're going to do the rape of the Sabine women, I have to say this is the rape of the Sabine women. So I think it's a lot of it, and a lot of what goes on. Not absolutely all of it. There's always been silly pockets where people did silly things in a kind of slightly modish way, but by and large, people teaching in universities want students to face different things and learn things, and they want to help them do that, not put them off. Now, there are, you have to say there are cases, and there are cases going through the courts at the moment, or employment tribunals, where particularly issues about discussions of gender have led to people losing their job or feeling that they had to resign. And I think one plows into those cases rather gingerly because you don't know the details, you only know what you've seen in the papers. And that of course does not make me feel happy. And um, if the details that I've got are correct, then of course I oppose that. I want universities to be a place where everybody can discuss and disagree about some of the most difficult issues we have. By and large, that's still the case. Perhaps not always, but by and large.